Don't stop. God. Don't kill it. At this point, we're on.
Oh, hi, John.
No, everybody. Right into it, y'all. This is TreeTrunk.
I made the mistake once of hitting end stream, and then basically you had to reset. Yeah, like YouTube, everything was wrong. So hey, everybody.
This is the best.
Tell you what, we'll do it this way.
This is. We went right into it this morning. No time off, no break in between. This is high octane May energy. It's May 10th, 2022, and we're here with Logik. It's the TreeTrunk Show. How you doing, man?
What's up? What's up? Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Stoked to have you on.
This is a moment in time. This is we spoke on this, I think, in the intro to the show, where all this happening right now is a direct result of the man himself, Logik, all caps with a K. I got a question for you, man, and I'm gonna try to, if I can shift the format here and swap you and I. Oh my goodness! Like, shout out to Restream for the fluid UI experience. So, Logik, I think I'll start off the conversation today just as a intro question to you as an artist. When did for those who have been following your journey in NFTs, or for those who are hearing of you for the first time today, when did your artist journey begin? How did you get into art? Like, where does that journey start for you?
Man, when I was 5 years old, just being in class drawing, I just remember being fascinated with cartoons, and I remember drawing little monsters coming out of like a little box. What do you call it, with the little toy come out the box? I would do those. I was just always fascinated with creating something that wasn't in front of me. And my dad worked for a movie distribution company. So I had access to a lot of movies. I had the promotional copies that would go black and white for like 10 minutes of the film, and it would say for promotional use. And they would like be the ones that gave the movies to Blockbuster and things. So I would get movies before Blockbuster did. And just having that access, man, I was just fascinated with every type of genre, just the creation of everything. So ever since I was a kid, man, I've been drawing. I can't remember when I wasn't doing that. And I think I took it more seriously when I was around the age of 15 or 16. That's when I became very intentional about the things that I was learning, and the thing that was keeping me up at night. So, yeah.
And at what point did you kind of parlay that into your experience with the blockchain? I guess I'll ask it as two parts. What was your initial kind of introduction to blockchain technology, and then when did you kind of fuse that with your artistic expression?
I got introduced to the blockchain around 2016, but it was around those times where you heard the word crypto or whatever, I think I even heard NFTs as well, but it was like, that's a lot of work. I associated it with the dark web or whatever. But a year later, I just couldn't ignore Bitcoin or anything like that. So I bought my first Bitcoin. I bought Litecoin in 2017. And I was like, I just considered them small investments. And then the 2020, shout out to Clubhouse and unfortunately the pandemic that gave us a lot of time. I was introduced to NFTs in a more practical way through a woman named Lady Phoenix on Clubhouse, who introduced like the likes of Beeple, and she was like telling us about OpenSea. And just per my background, I used to sell like web hosting. I bought domains, understood like 5-letter domains, and I bought a domain for like $3, $8, getting a couple $100 offers on it. That's a digital asset, and I was 16 when I was doing this. And then just again playing World of Warcraft, and people taking gold from the game and selling it on eBay for US cash. That's a cryptocurrency in essence. So I saw these things when the blockchain or NFTs was introduced, provenance and everything. It was just a short walk for me to just jump right in. And from that, I was like, oh, I'm so early, and I know what I've been cultivating IRL in Web 2. And I saw the people that were participating then who were newfound artists, and they were finding success. I was like, oh, I know what my language is. I know what my perspective is. It's a wrap. So I was sold, it was a wrap.
I used to play EVE Online, and they had this
did you?
in-game currency called ISK. And you'd have like, kids that were, I was an adult, by the time this game came around, but I loved it. It was a super boring game in some ways, but also like intellectually exciting because it's like 5,000 navigable solar systems and everything in the game is made by players in the game, and all this stuff. And it was super deep build trees, real expertise to run the game. But then it was just like space distances and what do they say in the military? Like hours of boredom followed by 2 seconds of sheer terror, right? You spend all this time and effort and money to build this ship. You fly it out of the space dock, and some guy blows it up, and it had real consequences. You didn't respawn somewhere. That ship was gone.
Yeah.
Right. But I remember, I didn't have time to mine for ISK, but I had money. So they had a way of trade, of doing the money. They had a whole economist on staff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I always think about that when people talk about the metaverse and stuff. Like, I'm like, well, how is this fundamentally different?
Yeah. I'm like, can y'all just make a World of Warcraft that we can just trade ETH on? Or, like it's done. It's like,
I can't wait for that.
That'd be cool. Also, Logik.
Hopefully the other side. But go ahead.
Without the money laundering. I mean, that's really the kind of the problem. Hey, how do you deal? Look, you're a serious artist, and you know a lot of serious artists. How do you deal with? And by the way, I got to go in a few minutes. I'll be back later. How do you deal with the money laundering threat? And like, what are your thoughts about it? I mean, it's not an NFT thing. Art has been used to launder money forever. So what do you think about all that?
Well, to be honest, where I come from, that's a good problem to have. Somebody putting that much liquidity in any type of culture, man, that's a good problem to have. That's just not a problem that I even had to even consider. Because everything we had to do, we didn't have access to people that had that type of money to launder. So a lot of our navigation came from creating things that are undeniable and not because somebody trying to pad our stats. So our stats are that's what it is. That's like you met Brandon Bro, like his stats are legit. There is no padding, there is no laundering. Right now, I guess that's what the Web3 we can as we continue to cultivate and dictate and pioneer, then we can talk about that answer. But until then,
there is one simple answer. Blockchains are a terrible place to do crimes on.
Yeah,
don't do crimes on blockchains, right? Everybody's like, oh, it's synonymous, I'm gonna get away with it. Yeah. And I'm like, have you met people are getting real good at catching people that are doing bad
and it's
things.
Pseudo, so you can inevitably find it. Pseudo
we're about a year away from a high school kid with a Python script being able to make you in 7 transactions. Yeah. So don't do crimes on blockchains.
Sure.
Logik, before you were talking about community, and I know that you have been like one of the OGs, even on like Clubhouse, but also just now on Twitter Spaces as well. How have you kind of seen the community change from when you came in to now? I know it must be pretty different.
Oh my goodness. A lot of social dynamic change, just even people migrating from Clubhouse to Twitter Spaces. When I was there, you can literally see the entire space seemingly. You can see everyone else participating. You can count on a couple hands how many projects actually existed. People got welcomed, and you got a warm onboarding. This is the etiquette. This is how we do things. Because it was like a trickle in. People just coming in, And then as things became more popular, instead of 10 people coming in at a time, you had 100 people coming in at a time. And instead of 100, you had thousands. And so what happens is people get varying perspectives on what it is and what Web3 is and NFTs. So then we quickly gain gurus, if you will, and So a lot of people were getting information not in a collective manner, but more so it started being fractionalized because people were taking advantage of people coming into the space, or people just felt like they knew everything from the jump and didn't have enough time in the space. Because a lot of us, Will knows, we did an interview in April. He interviewed me in April, and we had already been in the game months before April. And what happens is we were able to create a warm community, a true community of people, because we were literally there, not because there was crazy upside, financial upside, just because we were all learning, educating at the same pace. We were we just genuinely knew each other. No one was just selling all this, like no one was just coming in shilling. We were stepping on each other's backs for education and whatever. So when more people started coming in, the space became, I guess, kind of saturated. Or a very clear dynamic situation is that shifted it was Clubhouse. You can have 100 people on stage, and you could be there for hours on end, and you can go do whatever and come back and still chime in on the conversation. And you didn't feel pressure to always have to contribute something of such a heavy value. But then Twitter Spaces is based on hierarchy, just limiting 12 people on the stage. Now everything has to be a shield because you got to get your pitch out before they take you off the stage, and it doesn't just allow for a natural build. And so what happens is now everything is kind of the human aspect is taken away. The natural progression of everyone growing together is taken away, just based on people being fractionalized, and also consider the other. If you're not a blue check, then you below the people on a blue check on Twitter Spaces, and then the 12 people on stage are oracles because the 3 hosts are choosing who gets to be up there, and you're trying desperately to raise your hand and get chosen to be up on stage with 300 people in the room. But back in the day, it could be 50 people in the room on stage and 400 people in the entire space. So it just really changed the dynamic of how people feel, like how people value themselves in the space. And also just created a almost like just this pyramid of who gets on and who doesn't. And then when you open a room and no one comes in it, then you feel like no one is seeing you, versus being in be a part of a community of 500 people in a room, and everyone can just chime in whenever they want it. So it's kind of scary. And even the future, and I'll end on this, when Instagram is literally about to drop NFTs, and we saw the same thing happen to Instagram when they introduced Android to Instagram. It went from all these super high artistic photos, like what the iPhone community was all about, and then you open up to Android. Now you got meme culture permeating through, and stuff that isn't original artwork on Instagram. And what it did was people were angry, and then because the onboarding of Instagram didn't matter anymore. So the whole thing, when NFTs come into place, the idea of WAGME or friends with just the ENS is going to go out the window. Shit, mooning to the NFTs, mooning, that whatever that language is going to go out the window, because different cultures and subcultures are going to enter. And what we consider community is going to be, there's going to be movements, because people are not going to look at like, oh yeah, we're all about the fluffy penguins or the kicking kangaroos. It's going to be a whole nother dynamic added to the NFT space. And yeah.
On that note, like, where do you see that transition going as far as like building your own community, or the ways that community dynamics were changed? Like, how have you seen your own community shift during this transitional period?
People got more things to focus on and pay attention to, which is great. My thing is cream rises to the top, and I'm not in it just for shits and giggles at this point. Like, I've been doing what I do for a long time, so I'm kind of very, I guess, methodic in the way I move. But like I said, the things that we consider community is gonna just go into movements where people don't have to be on Discord to be a part of stuff. It's just not going. The average person is just not going to do that, especially when you take it into NFTs on the scroll on Instagram, however they're going to, push it out. But like within my communities, my thing is people are going to test the waters, and a lot of things that we're seeing, you don't really know what to latch onto, and a lot of things that are coming out is nothing you really can latch onto after you mint that project. So what I'm seeing is want to see like people see this correction that's happening, like the pullback. Oh my God, it's the crypto winter, and I'm like, bro, it's May, and and I'm like, bro, people just got burned, bro. People came in and got burned. People came in and was throwing everything at the wall, and like we saw that happen literally like 6 months ago, around the time Beeple did his thing at 69 million. There was a pullback. There was energy. 69 million. Everybody going in throwing all their bread in there, and you like, wait, I just bought the floppy disk and it didn't do anything. Yeah, bro. People want to stop and reevaluate and realize that, yo, I got to look at this market a completely different way, because the stuff that people putting down is not what I want. Kind of like we talked about right before we went live about just the nature, like within this year, people kind of burned out and everybody's trying to evaluate the market up and down. I'm like, bro, we don't even have enough data to support what's happening. Like, what are we talking about? You got to look at the culture of it all and how people are looking at this. So my whole point in saying this is what people are going to want to latch onto the real, the dope. And a lot of these things aren't coming from a human place, an emotional place, like in advertising. And the best ads are the ones that strike a chord, that have a universal truth that everybody can resonate with, whether your sexual orientation or your color or whatever it is. A lot of these projects aren't coming from a why. Why the fuck are we doing it? And it's more so like kicking kangaroos, and it's like, because we like to kick ass, and it's like, for what though? Like, what are we? And it's like this crazy story that I'm supposed to buy into. So as people look at this stuff, it's really going to be like, you want that dope, you want that heat rock, you want the thing that touches you, you want something that has legs behind it. So this is just a stress point and of what we're subscribing to. People are like, why did I subscribe to that? The heat, you know. So like I said, the thing with Instagram, that when they get it, is going to be around a bunch of people who like XX Tenacion or Chief Keef, or remember the Chief Keef thing pop? Imagine like those people if they had Chief Keef NFTs back in the day, right? And then that only got it in Chicago, and the phenomenon that it became, that was a real emotional tie-in. It touched the community, it touched the world. Like, why is this 17, 18-year-old rapping about these things? It came from, you can't deny that stuff. So that's like that energy that doesn't exist, that thing that somebody created in his house when no one was looking, right? We don't have, no one is even, I'm bringing Chief Keef because that's just like a little thing, and I wouldn't even use that in NFTs. Like, if that was the natural response to people, it wasn't because I'm building a community. It was a natural projection, and people accepted it. And you don't, and I can't even believe I use Chief Keef as an example, but you don't, or Chance the Rapper when he boomed, like, you can't deny those things. And we're not seeing that in the space of just output and not put a return on investment, you know?
Right.
That is very true. I also wanted to say, you kept saying Latch, and I'm like, my brain is so wired to all the artist names in my head that I'm like, oh yes, Latch. Because he's also one of the OG artists.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of TreeTrunk, I did just want to intro real quick. Terrence, really, really happy to have you on here. Terrence, this is Logik. This is Terrence. Will, I know you both already met on one of the earlier shows, but Terrence is one of my fellow co-founders for TreeTrunk. And I'm really excited for you both to meet.
Hey, what's going on, Logik? Yeah. Hey, everyone. It's been a while since I've been on one of these. I've been in the lab just grinding out all the tech to make this dream a reality. And so, you know, we're me and the team, you know, we're really doing a lot of big changes to make everything scalable, to make sure that we don't fall over day one. So, you know, we're putting together the finishing touches on a lot of things. So we have a lot of really good things coming.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And also on that note, Will, go ahead.
I was getting ahead of myself. I was getting excited about the technical.
Get ahead of yourself. Oh, okay. Well, we're going to do the tech in a little bit. But Logik, I did want to go back to your work. I guess it's a little funny that I'm the one asking the question. But what inspired your work that you put on TreeTrunk? Worth the wait.
This isn't the real thing. It's a beta.
I love it, by the way. There's so much emotion in it, and it is truly beautiful.
It's almost like it's almost a double entendre for me in the meaning, because I was like, I know we were in a beta and I was super excited to do an animation, and I like skipped events that night to finish the animation, and then I sent it to sent it to Serena at probably like 1 a.m. Like, this is what I created, and she's like, we can't do that, and so I mean, it was kind of sobering because it's like. It was sobering in a sense because I tried to ignore the fact that I couldn't do it, and I tried to do it anyway. And yeah, and when you say it isn't the real thing, it's like where we are in this space, like the blockchain, this digital world we're in. I've been building IRL forever. I've been doing events, build outs, installations, meeting, creating dinners, real face-to-face things, right? And I'm like in a very privileged position to be able to identify the differences, like building IRL and building in web, building in the internet. And as I communicate with a lot of people who are just internet natives, like they don't have IRL experience of we call it politicking, right? That it's kind of like a disconnect emotionally for people to be in this space, because it's like it is the real thing, but it's not the real thing, and it's the beta. Like even this whole NFT Web3 thing is such in infant stages. It's kind of like it's almost sad, almost like it's a beautiful thing because it's like sovereignty and all this stuff, but I feel like a lot of people are going to lose themselves in the shit because now it's like everything's microwave, and it's I'm fortunate because I'm like, I'll think I'll be fine just the way I'm like moving, but it's hard to like separate the two. I don't know if I'm like, I know I'm speaking in very ethereal like situations, but like very lofty. It's because I'm trying to educate on a formula that existed for Tupac and Biggie, that existed for Studio 54, that existed for Seth Rogen and his squad, or Ben Stiller and his squad, or the Wayans brothers. Like that was the real thing. Like you had to you had to sleep on a couch. People don't want to sleep on the couch no more. Like I look at my homies like Blue to Gray, Brandon Bro, or you look at Chance the Rapper, you look at any of these people, they went through the trenches. Sabet, whoever your artist is, you got to reverse engineer those things, and you don't get that, like that sweetness that preps you for the trials and tribulations for the future that you already met 4 years ago when you were sleeping on the couch eating a cup of noodles. When you meet it 4 years ago later, it's like, yo, I was already prepped for that. People don't want to go through these, that whole like journey gets taken away, I feel like, and you can't see it as much as we were able to see it RL, or you had to go through that to make it. And just applying that to the blockchain. And when you said that to me, it was like, wow, I still can't get things the way I want it. I feel like I'm on this cusp as an artist. Like I can see it, then I get there, and it's like, but the finish line keep moving. Like I'm never gonna. I don't know. It's a lot of things in there. It's true.
I also feel like with art, I think when it's IRL, a lot of it is more physical work. And so, things are easier to hit deadlines and do things like that. But when we're working in tech, something could go wrong and you're just like, hold on, everything's about to change. So that definitely contributes. But I do remember having to say no. Broke my heart, but we made it. I also wanted to ask, just to go back to the community aspect, are there any words of advice that you would give to somebody who's kind of starting to build their own community in the space and doesn't really have a following?
Yeah, hell yeah. You don't have a following for a reason. The thing is, we always want to go from 0 to 100, And again, it's like, people don't want to sleep on the couch. They want the mansion. They want the whole brick and mortar. They want employees, and then they don't even know why. Again, we go into this thing of why, right? And that's that. And then let's even take that back to a patience thing, because you don't even have to know your why as much as you need to it's like a feeling. So for instance, oftentimes we get into a space, you want to build community, oftentimes because you look at somebody else's community thriving. Why not me? How about, can you put me inside your community? Can I be a part of your squad? Can I? And then you like, but that's not your tribe. And people want to be a part of a tribe but have a same tribe, but that's not how this thing works. You have to, and Will heard me say this a bunch of times, I'm sure Serena, you heard me say, you have to start with the 2 people that's checking for you. Because if you can build a community of 5 people, then if you can sustain a community of 5 people, then you can sustain a community of 10 people. A lot of times people want to maintain a community of 10,000 people when they don't even know how to maintain a community of 100 people. And like, again, when I say sleeping on the couches, that's just like a symbol for the process. Because by the time you get to the people of 10,000, the community of 10,000, you've needed to go through the stress points or the stress levels to answer questions to support 10 people. Can you make 10 people happy? Can you lead 10 people? And if you can lead 10 people, then 50, then 100, etc. And through that, you don't want to get too big, because while you're going through those 10 people, they're going to be with you when you're wrong and right. They're going to understand through your pure intent while you figuring out your vision, figuring out your language, figuring out the thing that you really want to stand behind. You do that with the 10 people. You do that with the 30 people. You do that with the 50 people. By the time you get to the 10,000 people, your fucking mission statement is locked.
Yeah, that's real.
You know, like,
that's real.
So you got to go through those motions of building for the 10 people. Can you create the most amazing experience for 10 people? And guess what those 10 people are going to do? They're going to go tell 2 other people about it. And now you get to refine your language, you get to refine your product. And by the time you get to the 10,000 people, your product is on point. And that's what it is. It's a patient game. Like, I've been doing this for 10 years. I understood when I moved to Chicago, I understood how, like, a person like Joe Freshgoods built. I watched Chance the Rapper sell CDs out of his trunk. I watch an artist like Mick Jenkins do the things. And when you get to see all these, like, people go from nothing to something, it's like it's all about scale. And people don't like to wait. We so impatient. People don't like to wait, you know? I wasn't just Logic, you know, like, I self-proclaimed that, but at one point, people was like, yo, that's Logic. And I was like, it took from a very small group. And I had to stop overlooking the people that were supporting me, because I wanted to be over in the group that's already popping. Yo, and I'm like, yo, they not checking for me. These people are here. And then you'll find so much love that way.
I love that.
I'm taking notes, dude. I literally was taking notes. That is amazing. To that point, you know, through all the building that you've done, what's coming next? What's some alpha that we can get from the land of Logic?
Oh my goodness, man. Well, the Chicago Bulls are coming through to scout my studio today because I got a collaboration with the Chicago Bulls. Yeah, I'm one of 23 artists dropping a 101 on Coinbase with the Bulls. I'm speaking at VCon next week. So that's super awesome. I'm also launching my own NFT NYC event. It's called Sugoi, which means wow in Japanese, because I feel like there's a lack of wow in the space. Also just kind of answering to the overpriced tickets to go to NFT NYC. I want to be in rooms where people actually want to hang out with, and really just kind of, you know, start creating our own realities. You know, I've been to ETH Denver, NFT LA, NFT NYC last year, all these things, and I just there's a void, man. It was just a void of, and I feel like I'm at this very interesting position where me being a former creative director at Google, which afforded me access to a lot of rooms that I otherwise probably wouldn't have gotten, where I can bring big tech, people that have cultivated from the ground up, all these varying perspectives in under disenfranchised communities, all on the same stage to really get the education and stuff that we really need. And then in short, I am launching this animation series called The Adventures of Black Man. And the first 2 episodes, the way you're going to view them are going to be like in a drive-in theater situation. So instead of just dropping the NFTs and like buy my animations, I'm actually doing a pop-up drive-in theater in my studio, and I'm doing a 2-part feature. And as the intermission, I'm going to showcase my 2 animations in the middle, and it's for plug holders. And I'm doing a whole build. I got a chef coming through. I got like little car beds for people to eat out of the car beds in the studio.
Wow.
It's going to be super fun. And then that's going to be my recap video, and that's going to promote my Adventures of Black Man animation. So instead of like buy my NFT and get access, I'm just going to create the thing and then show you what I'm really building. So yeah, I got a lot of things, man. It's exciting. I can't even complain.
Where can people find like event updates and things like that?
Oh, I actually just launched my own like my brand Twitter. Shout out to Jordan for running that. He's been doing amazing. Studio Logic at Studio Logic on Twitter. We do all the updates for things I got going on, and then I'll be releasing a schedule probably today or tomorrow about all the things. Oh, also I know Motivate, where your conduit, Will and I are part of your conduit as well. But Motivate and I are doing some some programming here in Chicago. We're gonna do panels in my studio as well about NFTs and Web3, and we're gonna do private dinners. Just really cultivating like this. Again, this is not return on investment. This stuff is like we got access to certain things, information, access to those rooms, and we cracking the door open and bringing people with us because, again, as when we talk about community building. I used to run a dinner called Politics, and it was like poly meaning many, and it was TIX for tickets, so many people, many tickets at the table. And I found myself like as an artist, you go to these events and people feel like they know each other, but you only know each other as y'all familiar with each other, being in the same space, but you don't know shit about the person. So I created these dinners because I knew like lawyers and photographers and musicians and actors. So I would bring them to the same table so they can cross-pollinate. And what happens is the same way we're doing these panels and things, the same way I'm doing Segoy, when people meet, they will always remember where they met. And as your network you can have all these people in different places, but when you bring them together, now all of a sudden Serena and Will are talking. Now, guess what? My network has strengthened just by that simple situation. Now we're here talking, and all 3 of us are together. It literally works that way, you know? So.
Very true. You know, something that I just like love Logic of, you know, the things that you do in your community, but I think this kind of goes to the Twitter space that we were on the other day. Well, I was on, it was your Twitter space. But we were talking about.
It was ours.
All right, it was ours. And I know we were talking about kind of like, I can't remember who it was that said it, but basically she said, you know, a lot of people are in the space, but a lot of them are artists. And how do we educate and bring other people into the space? And I love that, you know, so much of the work that you're doing is really bringing people into the space and educating people and showing them what to do and where to go. And just kind of like opening the door to them, because I think a lot of things right now are pretty exclusive. I think it's really great that you're kind of breaking that boundary.
Yeah, man, because I hate sitting at the table by myself. I mean, I did the whole corporate track, bro. I mean, I worked at some of the top agencies in the world, one of the biggest companies in the world, and every day I'll just be the only Black dude at the table. I'll be the only Black dude with that dress like me at the table. I'm the only cool dude. I'm like, bro, I dress like everybody else where I come from, and this isn't the craziest thing. Why is this? I got style, but my friends got style. My counterparts got style. And it's like, and it was this whole thing of like not conforming to the whole thing, and just you sitting here learning about the language and you see how much money is being pushed through all these systems or these ecosystems. And you realizing that these people aren't smarter than your friends. You know, these people, they just know they got the business acumen, right? They got the
access.
Get the access, bro. And it's like, bro, I want to laugh at the jokes. I want people at the table with saying jokes that I want to laugh at, instead of me like, oh, that's cool, you know, like.
Yeah, no, that's real. That's very real, and I've experienced the same thing on the tech side of things. It's the exact same problem. Yeah,
and then you see like people with, you know, decent salaries and all this stuff, and your homie creating nothing with no funding, no capital, no nothing. And we got $1 million commercial that's barely cracking 200,000 views, and the video that the homies did for with $2,000 getting millions of views. And it's just like, what you, and it start to like, you start to really question, right? Like, or you start to challenge. So everything I've done is like, yo, these people just, so when we start to create these standards, as far as like, we redefine the standards as certain vernaculars being accepted, right? What dictates like, oh, you have a Southern accent, you must be a dumbass, like, right? Like when those things start happening, when you start to reshift what success looks like. Well, Kanye in one of his verses, you're gonna start seeing lawyers and stuff in Jordans. Like it's just like this whole different, like it's up here. It's not just you in a suit in the ivory tower. I want the homies to eat, you know, and you seeing too many funds being tossed around and too many talented people not getting a piece of it, even though it's not money is in everything, but money is power and we need money for influence and we can't deny that. So unfortunately we got to go on certain sides of the fence to go get it, to get that liquidity, if you will.
Yeah, that's real. And it's like, you know, you have this, the thing about crypto is it's such a new industry, but it's an open industry. Like everyone has, you know, the same right to this new industry. And it's like, okay, how do we incorporate and include and be inclusive in this space at the early stage? Because the earliest that we can do that, then it has that ripple effect and that butterfly effect that'll carry on further down the line. So it's great to be able to incorporate these things at such an early stage, because we can really set the tone for, okay, yeah, it's new, but you know what, we're setting the tone that it's going to be inclusive and we're going to include all these different people to the table and we're going to bring the table. And you know what, it's such an early space that there's really no established table, so I'm going to build my own table and bring people to here and bring people, and everybody's going to eat, and we're going to allow everybody access to the space. And that's what really drew me to it.
That table though, man, people get antsy at that table because, again, like you saying, Ethan, Matic, and all things get tossed around, and a lot of tables don't have that liquidity, bro. So, and the people that got the liquidity are the ones that got the 1,000 people in the Twitter spaces, because that's where the money is. So when again, as Black, brown communities carving out our space, you got 50 people at the table, but you know, ain't nobody eating, you know. Right. So that's like, you know, it's like how do we get seen? And that's like one of the issues. And I think that's kind of where I find myself. Unfortunately, I hate, like, it's sobering to even think about these things. Where I find myself, again, per my access, where I've worked and where I've been, I get invited, you know, but I still feel like an other. But it's like this thing of like we can build a table, but it's about, you know, playing chess and not checkers. You know what I mean? About bringing them, like, we can build it over here, but we still need to be able to play all the sides. Not saying, you know, it's weird without getting too deep into it, just to kind of get some, because once the beautiful thing about NFTs and Web3 is you can't deny the dope shit. Right. And people get to dictate with their dollars what they want to support. And as soon as we we create some things that are undeniable, access to devs to do things that really fuck up the blockchain per smart contract, right? Now those things are like, oh my God, competency on a blockchain. Oh my God, technical prowess, all this stuff that you can't deny, which starts to bring in a whole, because now it's not about color. It's not about, oh, you worked at this place. It's like, yo, this kid went nuts on the blockchain.
Right.
You can't deny, you can't ignore it. You have to put your funds there. And like we just saw early things, Nyla Hayes, Wahid, right? For All Smiles, a 22-year-old kid from Afghanistan, Nyla, 13-year-old Black girl. That's liquidity in the Black and brown community that never existed. Yeah. But now as we start to move forward with understanding as to the untapped potential of this blockchain and smart contracts and stuff like that, now it's not just sitting at the table, like figuring out like why not us. It's more so us building with those tools to actually create something that we don't even need to talk to those people, because you can't deny the light that's beaming through your window.
Right.
That's a whole nother, but that comes with access to that education and that dev and all that stuff, right? So
yeah,
I think give us a year and a half, man. Like a year and a half, it's a wrap. It's a wrap, bro. Like,
yeah,
For
that's
sure.
amazing.
I'm excited to see how the space changes as well. Also, just wanted to give a shout out to Logik and his works, and that TreeTrunk will be having a launch very soon, and you can all check out Logik's work there as well. And also just wanted to shout out all the other OG artists. So those are Arabella Proffer, Brandon Bro, Carmilla Sumantri, Crypto Jeweler, Dilek Sezen, Ishita Banerjee, Pareen Haydari, Latch, Logik, Sam Madhu, and Vimal Chandran. Got it.
The studio tour.
I also want to say, I love this. So for those who are listening, Logik and I met on Clubhouse about 2 years ago now. But our first interview was on Zoom, and the audio quality was atrocious. I couldn't hear him. I barely could hear him. I had a fake background. I was smacked. And here we are now, crystal clear audio with TreeTrunk. And I can see the studio now. No background. It's a new day. I was in New Mexico. Now I'm in LA. It's amazing.
It's dope.
That's awesome.
It's a hell of a studio, by the way.
Appreciate it. It's my last month here, man. I found another home for Studio Logik. I got a
in
store.
LA, right?
Huh?
In LA, right?
No. It's in Chicago.
I tried, manifested.
Soon come, man. Soon come.
New York. I'll manifest
right.
that too.
I wouldn't even, my crib in New York would be like this little.
Yeah.
Yeah, New York is expensive for sure.
Yeah.
It's true.
Terrence, can I ask you what's going on with your name right now?
Yeah, I was like, what kind of math?
Yeah. Well, that's no, I don't know. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why that's like. Oh, you know what? I had a. Okay, let me fix that. I had my glass fill over and it hit my keyboard. I guess it must have taken that impact.
I thought he was trying to challenge us on a calculus.
No, I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it actually.
Yeah, it looks cool. You look like you're smarter than everybody in the room.
It adds some flavor.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a screenshot of that.
I was over here pondering. I was like, plus 63, minus plus 9. Asterisk. I was like, okay, which one gets priority? Minus or plus? I was like, I don't think. Order of operations.
Right.
I just like, what does it mean?
So, do we have any technical updates? Can we jump into that? Because I feel like
we can.
I thought this was me being ignorant to code. I'm not gonna lie. That's what I first thought. I was like, oh, this is kind of
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely dive in. So the team has been working hard. We have updates to the minting process, and so to be able to mint large files and be able to say that you want max prints, it's a very process heavy way of generating these mints. And so we've made some parallelization updates to that. That'll give us a faster mint time, and it'll allow us to be able to scale and handle more people on the platform, doing these operations at one particular time. In that same update, we've also made some updates to the IPNS service. So again, to not only be able to mint this artwork, but also be able to connect it to the IPFS gateways in a way that is speedy. So now you can have access to those things and be able to link your community to these things. Speaking of community, there are some updates around Discord. So we're still kind of in the shop, workshopping how we're going to make Discord a safe space, something that's community oriented. So that way, we can have that self-moderation piece in there, because how you speak in one particular Discord room around one NFT, around one collection, around one drop is going to be different than how somebody else speaks. And so, but making sure that it's a safe space for everyone, that there's no illegal activity there, that there's no, hate speech and those types of things, is very, very important to us here at TreeTrunk. So, we're still workshopping how we want to do that in a scalable way. Again, and then we're going to be entering into our testing phase pretty soon. So, that's going to be, different types of testing. So we have our load testing, how many people can we handle on the site at any given particular moment? How many transactions can we handle? We don't want to go in, to launch and take down any of the networks that we're on from the blockchain perspective. We also want to give everyone that user experience that you expect to have, especially when you're dealing with art, and especially when you're dealing with your own personal hard-earned money, however that money is coming into the space. And so it's important that these tests give us some numbers about what we can handle, both from our server perspective, but also the blockchain perspective. And then we can do get into some really cool testing, like chaos testing. So chaos testing is really interesting, because that's where you basically are ripping out particular pieces of your infrastructure, and you're seeing how your system that you've built can be resilient against these outages and things like that. So you're gonna take out a server here, you may take out a connection to a database there, and you're just gonna see how the system can react to that. So you can really get some good insights into the resiliency of your system there. And then you also want to start doing some fuzz testing as well. So fuzz testing is where you are basically taking a whole bunch of malformed data, weird characters for usernames, and just like all the crazy stuff that you can imagine, weird malformed art files or image files and things like that. And you want to see how the system responds, and making sure that if we get something that's let's say that you get an image file that is corrupt or something like that, that we can hey, this is corrupt. Do you have another image? Or because we don't want to display something on the site that's not working or gives people a bad experience, because that's going to look bad not only on us but also on the artist or the content creator, I should say, if they're putting out something and it's like, hey, this is just a blank, this is blank, or this is corrupt. Is this really what it's supposed to be? Or is there something going on here? So we want to be able to wrap up all of that probably by the end of the month, and then start getting that ready to go. So I'm very excited about where we are technically speaking. I think it's day 30, 32, 33 for me here. So we've accomplished a lot in that time. We've made a lot of process updates to just be able to iterate faster. The faster that you can iterate, and the faster that you can respond to feedback of where you have bugs, where you have feature ads and things like that, the more agile you can be in the space and kind of respond to what everyone's doing. So we can respond to competitors. Oh, that's what they have. Okay, let's get that out. Or you can stay ahead of the game. And so that's what we want to do here. And that's how we want to engineer here at TreeTrunk.
Love that. Speaking of getting ahead of the game, I have a question for you. I asked Logik a similar one earlier. How did you get into blockchain? Like, what was your kind of entry into this field?
Yeah, so I'm a computer scientist by background, and so I've always been, kind of have my pulse on the tech world and understanding, where I can align myself, into new technologies, right? So I knew about Bitcoin probably back in 2011 is probably when I first kind of learned about it, and I was kind of trying to get into it, but didn't really, have any knowledge about, how best to do that. There wasn't a lot back then about, this space. And then in 2013, that's probably when I first started to try to get into mining and joining mining pools. But again, because it wasn't there wasn't a lot of information out there. I got very nervous about, is this a scam? Is this not? So I got very nervous about kind of investing in that, and then kind of like put it on the shelf for a while. And then it wasn't until one of my former coworkers at a company I used to work for kind of sat me down, and he kind of explained everything about cryptocurrency, about why it's important. He kind of like was my he kind of just held my hand through that uncomfortable phase of getting into something new. And so along with that crutch that he provided me, I kind of like fully went into crypto, read everything I could, read everything on Reddit, Telegram groups. I was on YouTube. I was like consuming all the information that I could about it to feel safe. And I started to invest in that space. And then that investment led me into to meet John through Baseline, and kind of connected with him from there. And that was kind of like my story about how I got it. But I've in the Web 2 world, I've been a engineer at Amazon, at AWS, startups in Silicon Valley, startups on the East Coast, and just kind of been a long-term engineer and a long-term engineer leader in the space. And so now having the opportunity to learn how to engineer in a Web3 world, is kind of like my next chapter in my engineering career. So it's going well so far.
That's so exciting. And Terrence, will we all be able to catch you at NFT NYC as well?
Yeah, that's right. I'll be up there in New York in June. So
Yeah,
looking forward to seeing you all there.
yeah.
For sure.
TreeTrunk is coming out in full force. It would be crazy if all 11 artists somehow ended up out there too.
Yeah, we're coming out hot. We are coming out hot, and so that's why, like, I've really been, like I said, this is probably the first stream I've done in a few weeks now, like, because I've just really been in the lab making sure that we come to market with a sound product that I can really stand behind. And so I want to make sure that, again, that we don't have, that we can eliminate all the production issues as we can. So I've really just been, combing over all the code, all of our infrastructure, making sure everything is sound and ready to go, to expect the traffic that we plan on expecting when we release.
So sick. Well, I think that's as good as a point as any. This was the TreeTrunk show. This was a hell of a show today. We went into art, we went into technology, we went into hopes for the future, and sights on New York.
Yeah.
Well, there in June. This is amazing. Terrence, Logik, it was an honor. This is so sick. It was like I would hate to count favorites, but I might say this is my favorite one yet.
This has been a really good one.
Yeah. For sure.
I'm happy, and so happy that both of you came on. Also, check us out next week, again, with the TreeTrunk on the weekly show on YouTube, but also stream it on Twitter, as you can all see. And catch Will's Treehouse every night at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. Right, Will?
Every day, Monday to Thursday. We're 30 minutes a day where we're just talking about artists, activists, entrepreneurs. We might need to get Terrence and Logik on that show. That might need to happen.
100%.
Definitely pull up.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, everyone. It was good to see you all.
Appreciate
All right.
that.
See you guys.
Have a good one.